Discover how the Surrogate's Office guides critical estate planning and guardianship decisions.
The surrogate's office
Okay.
and what the purpose of it is. I think there are a lot of people that don't actually know about the surrogate's office or what the responsibilities of the office are.
The surrogate is an elected official in each county who is also an official in the court system. The surrogate is a judicial officer, and the main job of the surrogate is to probate wills and appoint personal representatives for estates, administration of estates.
Okay.
That's our main function. But we also do all of the adoptions in the county. That's our
Okay.
most joyful function. And we handle money for minors, and we process all the guardianships for people who may possibly are disabled, have become incapacitated due to illness. That's a court process, superior court process. We handle that paperwork. But today we want to talk about estate planning.
Yeah, we do. And the office actually has a living will kit
Yeah.
that we want to cover that has a few really important paper inside of it. And the first is the last will and testament.
Yes.
And so how would someone use this form?
I would say that every adult should have three things: a last will and testament, an advance directive for health care, and a durable power of attorney. We don't have a power of attorney form. You can get that online, but the last will and testament, this is a sample form, really. The gold standard is to get an attorney
Okay.
to prepare your will, because an attorney can take into account all of your assets and considerations that might not occur to you when you're doing this. But this is better than nothing. And you can do this yourself, but you do need a notary to help you. So what you're doing here is you fill this out on the front, and then this is the most important thing. On the back, you need to have two witnesses and a notary, and all four signing at the same time. So the person making the will, we'll call the testator. Testator signed at the top, two witnesses and a notary. And that will make this form legally valid.
And those signatures happen in front of the notary.
Yes, all four individuals together at the same time in the same room.
Okay.
And we say we're observing the formality. In essence, when you are talking to that notary, you in essence are being sworn in. You're swearing that this is all accurate. And once you have done that, years later, the executor that is named here is going to bring this in, and this will be valid on its face. This could be accepted, and we would probate this will, and the executor would have letters in 2 or 3 days. They should have it. That's the benefit of this. It's a big cost savings to do it this way.
And then this form is durable power of attorney for healthcare.
Yes.
That's on.
This is sometimes called an advance directive for healthcare, sometimes called a living will. And this is a good form. And again, there's a lot of forms out there. Any form you're going to use, you can get online, but you want to make sure that they are specific to the state of New Jersey. That's
Okay.
very important.
And so every state has their own rules and guidelines.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And there's a lot of overlap, but there's always a few words that are different. And New Jersey doctors, hospitals, they're more comfortable with their own forms. So this is something that every adult should have. The front page is the decisions about life-sustaining treatment, if you're in an unconscious state, incurable disease. So you can go through whether organ donor, there's a lot of things on here for procedures you may or may not want. The most important thing on here to me is the designation of a healthcare representative. And again, what we encourage is you do this the same way you do a will. Two witnesses, notary. You sign it in the presence of two witnesses and a notary. And this one you could photocopy and bring to a hospital, your doctor. When you go to hospital, sometimes they'll say, do you have an advance directive? So this is something you want to have, because it takes a lot of pressure off of family members if you have already said in advance what your own preferences are.
Right.
Because people have these decisions sprung on them out of the clear blue. Perfectly healthy person, I got a terrible stomach ache, and an ambulance by the time they get to the hospital, if the family is facing an unthinkable situation.
Right.
And so if you've prepared for it, now's the time to do it when we're feeling good and the sun is shining.
Exactly. And then there's also this living will identification card.
What we say is that when you make this, you carry this, then you carry this in your wallet, so that The hopes is that the guys in the ambulance, when you're unconscious, they're going to see that
Okay.
you have it in your pocket. So then they know. Some people leave this on the refrigerator with a magnet so that if they're on the floor, the emergency rooms guys, the urgent care, first responders see it, and they're very attentive to that. And then they know that you have an advanced directive.
I would not have even thought about that. So that's what's in the living will kit.
Right. Those are the three big ones. The power of attorney is very important. I don't have that form here. A power of attorney is if I were suddenly stricken, you ask yourself, who's going to pay the bills? Tomorrow morning, bills are coming in. Who's going to take care of it? How? So they would have to go to court to get a guardian appointed.
Okay.
It's not that difficult, but it's time consuming. You need 2 medical certificates. An attorney has to be appointed to interview, to examine the unconscious person, see if they're able to express anything. And you need a temporary guardian. And then you may have a dispute. So the son says, I should be the guardian. The daughter says, I should be the guardian.
Right.
So by doing your own power of attorney in advance, a durable power of attorney, that means whether I'm conscious, it's in effect. If I go unconscious, it remains in effect. You can set your own person. This is the riskiest one because you're giving a lot of power over your finances, complete power. They basically can do anything that you could do in your bank account, anything. So you have to have someone you absolutely trust, you can entrust your life to. The most important thing on any of these documents, they're only as good as the person you appoint to carry them out. The executor of a will, the healthcare representative, the power of attorney. That better be a faithful person because they have to carry out your wishes and not try to take revenge on other family members for their own purposes. They have to do what you would have wanted done. And that's the important thing.
To make sure you're picking the right person.
Right. That's right.
And then we have
2 brand new
two
ones.
brand new ones.
Right.
So the New Jersey Motor Vehicle Transfer on Death
Yes.
Beneficiary.
We're always taking shots at the legislature, so we got to give them a plug here. This was a great piece of legislation. It just went through, I think, in 2024. And it's a simple form. It's available online. It's 1 page. It's free of charge. This is the beauty of it. This is a document you can file that will designate a death beneficiary on your motor vehicle title. So when a person dies in motor vehicle, they're very meticulous about their record keeping. So when somebody dies, you would think my wife died and I got the old car. I just go to motor vehicle, transfer the title, but you've got to have a certificate from the surrogate's office. So if you didn't have otherwise an estate, that's one specific thing. This heads off that process. This is a 1-page form that will transfer a motor vehicle, and everybody's still getting used to it. But this is going to be a very valuable thing going forward to save a lot of savings for people of time and money. So that's a good one for motor vehicle.
And does that need to be notarized as well?
This one also calls for a notary.
Okay.
Yes. This one calls for a notary, but it doesn't appear to require any additional witnesses. Just the applicant and the owner and the co-owner of the vehicle, if there is one, would have to agree as to who's going to be the named beneficiary for transfer on death, which people are familiar with transfer on death because bank accounts are sometimes made that way. So this is for motor vehicle. And then this is a funeral agent. This is a form that it's a little more lengthy, but the legislature passed this. Funeral directors have a strong lobby in Trenton, and it was really a long process to get this done. But the funeral directors wanted to be very careful about the language that was in here. But now that this has been done, funeral directors are satisfied with it. And this is very valuable because the person named in this state document, which again, this is free to print this and file, will be your funeral agent, and they can speak for you. And the funeral directors will recognize this. So somebody can come in and say, Uncle Joe wanted to be cremated. If you just walked in and said that, the funeral director is going to say, oh, wait a minute. No, we need the whole family's going to have to be present because we can't do that on the word of one person, blah, blah, blah. So this way you can, and they're correct to protect, they have to be protected with the way liability is today. So by naming an agent, you head off that process.
Okay.
And of course, when we complete these forms, we have to name young people.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to name somebody who's in the same boat that we're in. Because, that you may look at it, by the time you look at it, the other person's gone. So you want to keep these up to date. And really, that's it. Good estate planning is a gift that we give our families. And it is a lot of effort. And people say, I don't want to get involved in that. But by taking the effort onto ourselves, we save our families from what they have to go through. And I think we've all seen firsthand when somebody's in the final phase of a terminal illness and a decision has to be made. Somebody who's been married for 60 years, the spouse does not want to be the decision maker. It's just too painful. It's too emotional. Faith enters into religious views. If you have done it in advance, it's so much easier for the doctor to have that conversation to say, your husband had a living will.
Yeah.
They expressed what they wanted. Or you honor the wishes of your husband. It's a lot easier than saying, it's your decision, it's my decision. It's hard. It's hard.
And it also ensures that what you want happens, because you don't know if your family members are going to make the same decision that you would have.
That's it. And you want to get your wishes, and particularly for your will. Now, if you die without a will, it's not the end of the world. There is a process. In an ordinary situation, the spouse would be the first entitled. Children, grandchildren, parents. If none of those others, then you look to parents, you look to brothers, sisters. So there is a whole sequence for the next of kin. But now you run into circumstances where there are stepchildren. There might be one child that cared for the parent, 3 others that scattered through the country, but all are considered equal if there's no will. And so this becomes a problem. So it's very important to put out your own wishes in your own will. And even if you only have a few assets, sometimes the smallest things are what lead to these biggest fights and hard feelings amongst your loved ones, that you can head it off. Maybe they'll be mad at you, but at least it'll be easier for them to cope with it. That's the way you wanted it.
Yes. And hopefully less chaos and no fighting.
That's what you pray for, because the problem with fighting over an estate is very expensive. And we've seen cases here that Janet could tell you, our litigation specialist, the deputy. All I watch is they're fighting in court. I'm just watching this estate shrinking to the expenses of paying experts and lawyers, and testifying witnesses. The transaction costs of fighting are too great. It's just so much better to do it. And even when it's uncontested, if a person is in a hospital bed, can't speak for themselves, it's very expensive to get someone appointed to do it. This is inexpensive. It's a little cumbersome for an individual to do it, but if you take the time to do it, you're going to create a big savings in the long run.
All right. And then also it's important to review your documents yearly.
You really,
at a minimum.
you really do. And especially if there's been a change in circumstances, such as a death of a loved one, a divorce, children who reach the age of 18. So all these little milestones, you need to take them into account. And the gold standard always for estate is to meet with a good elder law attorney or an estate planner in a financial field. But that, of course, can get expensive. If you have a lot of assets, that's the way to go. If you really are on a tighter budget, take a look at these forms and see if you can navigate your way through it. You're looking at probably an afternoon's worth of work here, but it would be worth it. It would be worth it to your family to do this. You're going to save them a lot of time and heartache.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all the information and for your time.
Well, I really appreciate you coming in. This has been great. You can see I could talk all day because we see so many different variations of things that, oh my God, I never dreamed something like this could happen, or people in court fighting over whether someone should be cremated or buried. And you would never believe that would be a court case, but yet there it is. And these things help to eliminate those problems.
Yes, it seems so. Okay. I will do my part and spread what I've learned here, especially to my clients. I have some clients that are in that next phase of life where they're downsizing their homes and talking about things that they want to leave to their children. So making sure that I educate my own clients about making sure they have these things in place, but also having the conversation with their family as well. While it may be morbid, it's super important. And I think that's why a lot of people shy away from it. They just don't want death, even though it's something that's going to happen to all.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Everything you've said. And there's another thing out there that makes it maybe a little more palatable to talk about. There was somebody came up with an idea once. It was called 5 Wishes. There's a brochure. It's online.
Okay.
You might want to check that out because it was a conversation of your life. And there was like 5 Wishes, this brochure that took into account more than just the legalistic and medical things, but what do I want to be remembered for? Things like this. And there was a little more to it, a little more elevating the dignity
Okay.
of the life. And, but it does find its expression, I think, through these documents in your love for your family. It really is an expression of your love for your family to do this.
Mhm.
That's my opinion.
Yes. Okay. I like that.